Yeah, people are exhausting. So what? Welcome to the Farmish Kind of Life podcast, where we talk about homesteading stuff and life stuff and everything in between. Join me, Amy Dingman, as we explore big questions on a little farm. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Farmish Kind of Life podcast, where we talk about life and how to live a good one, whether you live on a farm or a busy street or you're in a tent in the middle of the woods. I don't care where you live. We're going to talk about how to live a good life. This is episode 266. Today is February 12th, 2024, and I am so glad you are here. The topic today is, Dear Introverts, don't do this. And this is one of those episodes where people might get a little bit like, what are you talking about, Amy? I feel like you're calling me out here. And that's kind of the point of this episode, to be honest. I'm speaking this episode with love, but also some spice, all right? And I absolutely am doing it because I am an introvert and there was something I needed to get honest about. So that's what we're going to dig into today. But before we get to that, I want to say hello to any new listeners. I never considered that there's always new people joining the podcast. And if you just hop in, you're kind of waiting around and you're like, okay, what's being talked about? Who is this chick and where is she from? Like, what's this all about? So let me do a little introduction for y'all who might be new or relatively new. So this is the Farmish Kind of Life podcast. This podcast has been around since 2018, if you can believe that. Hello to all of you who may have been listening since the beginning. This podcast started as me talking a lot about the homestead life and how to do all that stuff. And somewhere along the way, it morphed into something where now I just kind of talk about living your best life and being your best you and how that can hopefully help the collective everything be just a little bit better. I'm Amy. I am the mom of 2 adult sons and the wife of one fabulous gentleman, and all 3 of the men in my life are way taller than me, like at least a foot taller than me. So that's wild. And we live here on a 5-acre homestead in central Minnesota where we raise and we grow lots of things. On this podcast, we talk about real life. And sometimes I serve it up as a spoonful of spicy sugar, which you might hear today. But there you go. I hope if you are here that you enjoy your time here. Please share this episode, share this podcast, leave a review wherever you are listening. My goal for 2024 is to continue to grow this podcast so we can reach more people to talk about living a good life and helping people out and making the collective everything just be that much better. I'm sorry that's all that I have to update you on. That's just the time of year on the farm. I don't have any cool animals to talk about or anything like that. I'm sorry. Let's talk about something way more exciting and maybe a little spicy. Let's head over to the main topic. So today we're going to talk about something that I know is going to rub some people the wrong way. And I don't mean for it to do that. But also, it might be something you need to hear even though you don't want to hear it. And the reason I'm talking about this is because it's something I absolutely needed to hear myself. And once I realized the truth of this and realized what I was doing, I made a change and it's made my life a lot better, a lot more enjoyable, a lot easier to deal with. And so there may be some people out there who need to hear this as well. So I'm speaking about this from a place of love. You all keep that in mind. So today we're talking about a message that I think introverts need to hear. All you introverts. I'm talking to you all introverts. Where are my introverts out there? I'm an introvert. Before we get into this, I suppose we should define what's the actual difference between an extrovert and an introvert? What do I mean by that? When I grew up, I thought extroverts like people and introverts don't like people. Right? That's kind of what I believed. Extroverts like to be around people. Introverts don't like to be around people. It's a little more complicated than that. Extroverts, for the purpose of this podcast episode, are people who are energized by being around other people. Okay? Extroverts need time with others in order to feel full and whole and complete. Okay? That's an extrovert. Introverts are the opposite. Introverts are energized by being alone. okay? They need alone time to feel full and whole and complete, okay? That is the definition we are going with for this podcast episode. So I already said I am an introvert. I've always been an introvert. But what we need to talk about today that has to do with introversion, and all y'all introverts out there, I'm going to call bluff on something, okay? And it's something that I see introverts doing, and that is they're not just identifying as an introvert, but they are actually using introversion as an excuse to not do anything that involves people, okay? They're not just saying, well, yeah, I'm an introvert. I prefer to be alone, or I'm an introvert. You know, I like to just hang out at night and in my jammies and eat popcorn and watch Dharma and Greg. I don't know. Maybe that's just what I do. I don't know. But they go beyond saying that to literally using it as an excuse for why I can't do anything. I can't go out and meet people. I'm an introvert. I can't get involved in that group. I'm an introvert. I don't want to do that. I'm an introvert. And it becomes an excuse. And what I have noticed with other people, but first noticed it with myself. We're going to have a little story time here, okay? Sometimes introverts are miserable and they are on the struggle bus because they are completely stuck in their brains all day because of this. People are exhausting and I hate people and people suck and I'm an introvert and I prefer to be alone. People are just so exhausting. Okay, they're stuck in this. And what I've started to kind of say when I hear, oh my God, people are so exhausting. You know what? They can be, but you know what else is exhausting? The gym. Making dinner after you get home from work. Working a 12-hour shift. That's exhausting. Being a parent is exhausting. Sometimes just waking up and having to do the day is exhausting, okay? Yeah, people are exhausting. So what? It is exhausting to deal with people sometimes, right? They drain you. If you're an introvert, being with people will drain you in a very special way. I remember the first work trip that I went on with the people who are now my bosses, who also happen to be good friends of ours. The first work trip I went on with them, we were going to, various states, and we're doing all these service things on vehicles and, whatever. Long story, but it was a big, long trip, and we shared hotel rooms the entire time. We're a very close set of friends. It's a very special situation. But I bring this up to say the only time I was alone on this entire trip was if I had to use the bathroom. That is the only time that I had any time to myself on this trip, just because of how the trip was set up. We shared hotel rooms. We were constantly doing work together. We ate together. Everything was together unless you had to use the bathroom. When I got home from that trip, I was exhausted. I was exhausted just by that constant being around other people for a whole week. And when we got home from that trip, I needed a minute. I needed a couple days to decompress and re-energize myself by being alone. But you know what? I'm really glad I went on that trip. There was a lot of really awesome things about that trip. We had a lot of fun. It was overwhelming, and I had to decompress. It was a lot of people time, but I'm glad I went on that trip. Extroverts can benefit from alone time, okay? Introverts can benefit from spending time with other people. And I think it's really, really important that we don't slide into the belief that introversion is like this special kind of diagnosis that gets you out of doing life. I hear this so much, it just becomes this excuse. I'm not going to do that. I'm an introvert. Oh, I wouldn't like that. I'm an introvert. I'm just going to stay home because I'm an introvert. What? It's like being an introvert has become this, like a note from mom telling you that you don't have to do phy-ed today. That's what it's become. It gets you out of stuff. It's become an excuse to not be involved in stuff that happens in life. So here's a little story time. You may relate to this. Recently, there was a bridal shower in my family. Very big bridal shower. Lots and lots of friends of the bride, lots of various family members from other sides of the family. It's a very, very large family. And so it was going to be a very big bridal shower. I knew I wasn't going to know a lot of people there. And I'm sure that the people who invited me assumed that I wasn't going to go. Because I have a horrible habit of not showing up. Why? Because I'm an introvert. If there's going to be a lot of people there, I don't want to go. Because there's going to be too many people and it's going to be exhausting and overwhelming, right? So I just stay home. I'll get together with you one-on-one, maybe a couple few people and me. I'll get together, but I don't want to do a big party. I don't want to be at this big thing. So they invited me, and I'm sure they figured that I wasn't going to come. But when the invitation came in the mail, I immediately texted the person who was putting this bridal shower on, and I said, "Yep, I'll be there." I'm sure she was like, "What?" And then I put it on my calendar, and I told my husband I was going to go. Now, I'll be honest with you. The closer it got to the party, the more I was like, no, I don't want to go. It sounded like a good idea at the time, but there's going to be a lot of people there. Most of the people I'm not going to know. Like, do I really want to do this? The day of the shower comes. No, I am going, okay? I forced myself to go. And here's the thing that some of y'all may relate to, especially if you identify as an introvert, okay? While I was there, okay, I was the first one from my side of the family to show up. So I get there and I don't know anybody who's there, all right? And if you've ever been in that situation and you're an introvert, or maybe a certain kind of introvert, I don't know, but you get there and you don't know anyone there, and then you fall into this, I don't know anybody here, and then you kind of sit in the corner, and then you kind of go into that, see, no one's talking to me. I shouldn't even have come. Why am I here? See, this is why I don't come to these things, because nobody even talks to me. I don't know anybody here and nobody's talking to me. Why am I here? And some of you are laughing because you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so I'm sitting there like, okay, what am I doing? And it hits me. This is what hits me. I don't know anybody there except the bride and the mom. And it hits me. Oh my God, Amy. The bridal shower isn't about you. Get over yourself. This ain't about you, girl. This ain't about people talking to you. This ain't about you. And that flies through my head, and I'm like, wow, I kind of suck, don't I? And I decided I was going to insert myself in some conversations politely. And you know what? I started talking to people, and it was great. And then my family showed up, and it was wonderful, and it was a really, really lovely time. Biggest bridal shower I have ever seen, and just an amazing time. We had a really great time, and I'm really glad that I went. Was it overwhelming? Was it a lot of people? Yeah, but you know what? I'm glad I went. I'm glad that I did not use introversion as an excuse for not going, because it turned out really, really well. And the thing is, I think we have this assumption that people who are introverts don't have a big community and people who are extroverts do, right? If you're introverts, you just want to stay home and you have your couple people that you hang out with, and that's just fine. That's all you need, right? There is a younger person in our community, in the music community here, and I'll call him a kid, but he's not a kid, but he's younger than me, so he's a kid, right? I'm old enough that I can say that. And he's just a fabulous musician, and I just always just assumed that he was this really, really extroverted person. He always talks to me when I see him. He is always out in the community doing things. He has this huge community of people that he knows and just things he's involved in and all this stuff. And I was talking to my son about him. They are friends, talking to my sons. And I made mention of this kid. And, you know, it's just, he's such an extrovert. That's just so awesome. And one of my sons said, oh, mom, no, he's very introverted. When he gets off stage, he needs some time. He needs some time to himself. He really enjoys his alone time. And that was shocking to me because I thought for how involved he is in the community, you know, for all of the people that know him, like everybody knows him and he's very kind and he can talk to anybody, or at least that's the impression that I get. It was very interesting to hear, oh my gosh, guess what? He's an introvert. He needs to go home and he needs to have his time to just decompress, right? Hearing that, it was a really good reminder to me that you can be that person who needs to go home and take a minute, but you still have this huge community that you're involved in. And you know what? He's involved in the community doing really amazing things, helpful, wonderful things. Sometimes we need to be involved in the community and put away the excuse of, I'm an introvert. We need to put that away so we can get involved in the community and do things to help the greater good, right? Sometimes you need to be involved in something bigger than yourself in order to make that happen. You can't always do that, you and your bestie. You know what I'm saying? Thinking back to the pandemic, that really brought about some really interesting things when it came to introverts and introversion. I have a friend who has always been really antisocial, says she just hates people. She hates to be around people. She's never in large groups of people, unless she was at work or whatever. But during the pandemic, her job, like lots of people's jobs, was moved to a work from home situation. And it was like that for a while. And then she had the option to go back to the office after things kind of cleared up. But she didn't go back to the office because she also still had the option to work from home. And she decided, you know what? I love this working from home thing. I don't have to deal with people, right? Because people are exhausting and I hate people. I don't have to deal with them anymore. So I'm just going to work from home. And her life became about everything that was happening inside the four walls of her house and what was happening online, right? That became her world. And her husband, who's also a friend, would kind of make these comments like how she was worse now than she was before. And he thought it was because even though she was an introvert, she actually needed to be around people. He was starting to feel that, even though she felt that she didn't want to be around people. He said, I almost feel like she needs to be around people. And he couldn't get her to go back to the office or get involved in something in their community or anything like that. They didn't have kids or anything. So very much like, these are the four walls of our house and this is my life now. And she'd say, I'm an introvert. I hate being around people. Working from home is the best setup ever. But it actually was really, really horrific. Present day, now things have changed. She's back to work and she's a completely different person. She's still an introvert. She still prefers to spend time alone. She still needs that time to chill out and regain her energy. But now she will say that she understands the value of being with other people and how they put into your life, even as an introvert, right? I think that we have a different and a more full appreciation for our alone time when we've been around other people. As an introvert, I would say that I appreciate my alone time more when I've actually had to be out with other people. Much like I would assume that extroverts have a different and more full appreciation for being around people when they've had to have some time alone, when they haven't been able to be with lots and lots of people. I think needing time to chill out or needing time to be with other people was never supposed to be a all the time thing, like a 100% of the time thing. I don't believe that we were created to be around people 24/7, and I don't believe we were created to be alone 24/7. I think there's supposed to be a balance there of both. And I think understanding where you get your energy from, whether that is I'm an extrovert or I'm an introvert, is one thing. But I think we need to be really, really careful that we don't let introversion become an excuse to, I'm just going to stay home and not get involved in anything. I'm not going to build a community. I'm not going to go out and meet anybody. I'm not going to do anything with anyone out there because I'm an introvert and that's special or something. Now, next week, we are going to talk about the topic of why we hate people and why we suck at being social. That was actually something, a question, a topic that I posted in a couple places, and I got a lot of people to give their 2 cents about that. And I wanted to pull this introversion piece out first for this first podcast episode because it came up so much when I put this topic in a couple different places online. So I wanted to pull that piece out and do this episode first. And then next week, we're going to talk about a whole bunch of other stuff that has to do with why. as a society? Why do we say we hate people? And why is it so hard to be social? Why are we not good at it anymore? I've got a lot to say about that. I've been doing a lot of research and a lot of thinking about this. So please come back next week and to hear me talk about that. And fellow introverts, hopefully you don't hate me right now for calling you out if you are using your introversion as an excuse. But as you know, anything that I talk about on this podcast is because I'm saying it to myself just as much as I'm saying it to you. So this is something I have had to learn, and I'm passing it along to you because I want us to make a difference in the lives of other people. And if you're not going out and seeing other people and being involved with other people, you can't do that. So there you go. All right, y'all, that is what I have for you today. If you enjoyed this episode, or if it made you real mad, go ahead and share this episode with someone you love, someone you don't love, anybody you want to. And remember to come back next week for more talk about why we suck at being social and how we could maybe get just a little bit better at it. You can head over to my website, farmishkindoflife.com. And remember in the beginning, I said this podcast has been around since 2018. If you go to my website, there's a list of every single episode there, and you can listen to it right on the website if you're not able to access that through your podcast player. I know some of those apps will only take you back so many episodes, so that's a way to listen to the really old episodes if you want. farmishkindoflife.com. Check out the menu. You'll find the podcast there. Thank you so much for being here today. I am so honored and humbled that you stick me in your ears every week, because like I always say, there's a bazillion and 25 podcasts out there you could be spending your time with, but you came back and listened to me, so thank you so much for that. Have an awesome week, you guys, and I will talk to you again soon. Hope you enjoyed the show today. To continue the conversation, visit our website at afarmishkindoflife.com. Find A Farmish Kind of Life on social media or drop me an email at amy@afarmishkindoflife.com. Peace, love, and bacon, y'all. Stay farmish.